Welcome to Salvage, a podcast for conversations with artists about the repurposed materials they use in their art practice. Please enjoy my conversation with Meredith Andrews, aka Plastic Mermade. Meredith is a contemporary portrait, travel, and lifestyle photographer who has shot for editorial, advertising, and private clients all over the world. She is based on the tropical island of Bermuda, where she finds much of her inspiration. Her work can be seen in almost every medium, including dozens of international exhibitions, such as the 2009 and 2019 Taylor Wessing Portrait Prize at the National Portrait Gallery in London, UK, Portrait of Humanity 2020, OpenWalls Arles 2020, the Copenhagen Photo Festival, and the solo show at the Bermuda National Gallery in 2021. I am delighted that Meredith is here to talk to us about her life as the Plastic Mermade. Well, thank you so much, Meredith, for joining me here.
Absolutely.
I'm delighted that you agreed to do this.
Of course.
So I think I first discovered you under the Plastic Mermade Instagram account. I had no idea that you were a photographer as well. And I think, yeah, it was just all your assemblages from this found plastic. And then I finally went to your website and I was like, oh my God, she is an accomplished photographer with all these
Oh,
other things. And so I am
thank
very
you.
interested in how it all came to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am a professional photographer and I finished my master's in 2000. So I guess I've been working since then. I worked as an assistant to begin with. So I did my master's degree in London at Goldsmiths College.
Oh, okay.
And then I assisted in London for a few years. And then I kind of was doing small jobs here and there. But a friend of mine saw a newspaper ad for a job at the newspaper back here in Bermuda, where I'm from.
Oh, so
And
you're
so,
originally from Bermuda.
yes, yeah, my
Oh,
family's from here. So,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
As a child, I bounced around a little bit. So I
Uh-huh.
sound quite American because I lived in California when I was younger.
Ah,
Um, my mother is English and my father's from Bermuda.
gotcha.
And so we sort of moved around. And then, yeah, when I was 14, they moved back here full time. And then when I was 17, I went to sixth form college in Wales at a really amazing school called Atlantic College.
Oh, wow.
It's part of the United World College movement. And long story short, 400 students from 75 countries at that time, 90% were on scholarship.
Wow.
So had that amazing experience. And then I took a gap year and then did my undergraduate degree in Montreal at McGill University.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did my master's degree in photography at Goldsmiths College in London. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, when I was studying photography, I was sort of not sure what I wanted to do, but I was thinking that I would go into photojournalism.
Ah,
Uh, and so right after Goldsmiths, I needed to start working. And this is at the time where it was still film.
uh-huh.
So I worked at a couple labs and then I did a work experience at the independent newspaper, which was really incredible because it's like a hub for fantastic photojournalism. But then they couldn't hire me full time and I needed to eat. So I started assisting. And then I kind of got in the world of commercial photography, but specifically portrait photography.
Mm-hmm. Oh, your
And
portraits are
kind of,
stunning.
oh,
Absolutely
thank you.
stunning. Yeah.
I mean, I really think of myself as a portrait photographer because so it sort of came from that.
Uh-huh.
And then after a few years of doing that in London, was pretty exhausted by London. So a friend of mine saw an ad for a photojournalist for the local paper. And I should give a little context here. So Bermuda is 26 square miles. It's the second most isolated place on Earth. And we have a population of about 65,000.
Wow.
So when I say I came home to work at the paper, it's because there's only one paper. So, yeah. So anyhow, came home and did that. And then after about a year and a half there, which was a great experience, I went freelance
Uh-huh.
and kind of haven't looked back. And a few years after that, my then boyfriend, now husband, we sort of looked at each other. We turned 30 basically, and we realized we were going to blink and be 40. So we decided to go for it, and we backpacked around the world for a year,
Oh my gosh.
and then we relocated to Sweden, and I lived there for 6 years. And in that 6 years, I had my kids. And then 10 years ago, we came back to Bermuda.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
and it was at that time, so 10 years ago, about when I sort of uh, things kind of convened and this plastic part of my work was born, I guess you could say.
So did you, well, I assume if you live on an in a place like Bermuda, you have to be a beach person,
Yes, I mean
right?
here where the island is only a mile wide,
Yeah.
so you're never more than half a mile from the shore or the beach.
Right.
So our wilderness is the ocean.
Yeah.
Like that's our great outdoors. And so growing up, people here learn to swim very young,
Yeah.
and it's sort of our wilderness.
So did you happen to notice some plastic on the beach? Is that how everything started?
It sort of was a bunch of different things coming together. So when I was a kid in Bermuda, the main thing was tar on the beaches.
Oh,
So yes,
where
because
would
I
the
guess
tar come from?
from oil spills and
Oh,
jettison oil and things. And
uh-huh.
so there would be this tar. So as a kid and a teenager and a young person, that's what I remember really distinctly. You'd walk along the beach and there'd be tar. So you always had like less oil or something in your car to get it off.
Oh, okay.
Then when I came back this time, it was like a marked difference, the amount of plastic on the beaches.
Hmm.
So just before I left Sweden, like I said, I'm a portrait photographer, right? And I love it. But then, like most people, my life changed dramatically when I had children and sort of, um, yeah, things just changed.
Mhm.
And I realized there's a level of like control or time that you need for portraits. Like I really want to know my subject. I want to spend time with them. Um, and also they should be them and I'm trying
Right.
to capture that. So I really don't have control over it. So when my kids were little, I started just doing these botanical arrangements with flowers and things from trees and stuff. So I became interested in pattern making. So I was sort of playing around with that.
Mhm.
Then I moved back to Bermuda. I'm going for walks on the beach all the time. And I was struck immediately by how much more plastic there was on the beach,
Uh-huh.
or that I just hadn't registered for the 10 years before.
Right. Well, it may
And
not have been there.
it may not have been there. It was
Yeah.
like we hit some sort of um, you know, peak and
Yeah.
it just started. And obviously it's not stopping.
Right.
And so, yeah. And one of those, so I just started picking up the trash and
Mhm.
throwing it away, disposing of it properly.
Mhm.
Um, and then one day I found this little toy soldier, and that was kind of the thing that changed everything. Like I'm very much a lover of secondhand old things. I mean, you might be able to tell from all the junk in my house here, but like I love things that have this kind of story from before or whatever it be. And so this little soldier had this, what I call an ocean patina on it.
Mhm.
And
Kind of
it
scratched up
was
and stuff.
yeah, I just thought it was the most beautiful thing in a way. And that there was just this like kind of whole world and this story in this small little object. But then at the same time, it was this kind of like horrific artifact of waste and the situation. So
Mhm.
yeah, so then I started very regularly going to the beach and picking up. But what I would do is I would come home and I would sift through it all. And that's basically what I still do. And then taking that kind of like botanical arranging still life projects that I had been doing, I applied it to the plastics.
Yeah. Yeah. And so everything that, I mean, you have a gazillion photos on your website, and I'm sure there's probably more than just on your website. So is all of that everything that you find?
Yeah. So
Wow.
everything has been found. So I do a combination of things. I'll do arrangements, I call them. I mean, you call them mosaics or
Mhm.
pieces, whatever. And then I photograph those. And then those objects kind of go back into my collection.
Okay, so
Whereas
nothing is
other
ever
time,
attached together. Nothing is
no,
ever permanent.
sometimes not, but then other times I like this one behind me here, like very much inspired by Marimekko, which who the Finnish pattern makers who I'm big fans of. That is affixed
Oh,
to the board.
okay.
So it's sort of a mixture of photographs and sculptures and yeah, and then one other kind of thing that has kept me going with this a little bit is that I guess in 2014, 2015, something like that, I started doing with a friend of mine in the UK what we called an Adventgram. And so for the month of December, we would count down the days.
Mhm.
He tended to do it with numbers that he found, like, someone's door, number one.
Mhm.
Whereas I was like, okay, this is really a good challenge, creative challenge for me. So every day in December up to Christmas, I was challenging myself to like make or find the number.
Uh-huh.
So, in my garden, I would arrange a number one. In the post office, I would arrange a number two and, sort of make these scenes.
Uh-huh.
And after a couple of years of doing this, at the same time I was doing more with the plastic, I was like, why don't I put these things together?
Mhm.
And so then I began doing the advent calendar, ocean plastic advent calendar. And so, yeah, I've been doing that for, I think, 7 years now, 8 years now.
Oh, so do you
Um,
make a new one every year?
I do. Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, I have to be honest, this year so every year I'm like, okay, by November 1st, I will have them all done. And every year on December 1st, I'm like, oh my God, I got to do them. So there were a couple days this year where I had to use old ones, but
Ah.
generally I try and do a new one every day. And then depending what the object is, I write a little blurb about an alternative to that
Mhm.
thing, or an organization that people should be following, or a different artist who's doing really great work.
Oh, that's so cool. I just, it's clear that you are very attuned to color in all these images. I mean, the color gradations and just the collage of all the transparencies and translucencies and the shapes are just phenomenal.
Oh,
They're
thank you very much.
gorgeous.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have certain things that I'm quite drawn to. So I would say like actually a really important part of the work is um I guess actually it occurs in my portrait work too. I think I'm a collector.
Mm.
And then I just want to arrange these things. I feel like as a collector, let's say of portraits, whether it be security guards or single mothers or people waking up first thing in the morning, I like to collect a series of portraits because I feel like it has more power then,
Hmm.
because it's sort of like it's not just a portrait of one person, but it's sort of a portrait of a concept.
Hmm.
And I'm applying that now with the plastics. I think I kind of fine tuned that a bit with the Adventgram. And then in 2019, I did a show at the Bermuda National Gallery called Flotsam and Jetsam. And
Hmm.
I did 9 works, which were then blown up to be huge photographs.
Oh.
And each piece is a different object, whether it be ballpoint pens or lighters or toothbrushes.
Uh-huh.
And I think when I was creating those, I wanted to make them beautiful. I want this absolutely disgusting thing to
Right.
become beautiful. But then also I like like I said, having the power of the collective,
Hmm.
but even more so, I wanted to do objects that everyone recognized.
Yeah.
So, we've all used a plastic pen. We've all
Yeah.
used a plastic lighter.
Yeah. It's impossible to get away from plastic pens. I
It
don't think
really
there's
is.
any other kind of pen these days.
It's very hard. So yeah, that's kind of, I would say that's sort of a fundamental within it, that I want the viewer, even if they didn't create this trash
Of
themselves,
course.
they can kind of put themselves in the picture,
Right.
in terms of being like, oh, I use that, or I use that. Maybe there's an alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's so fascinating. And so I assume that you keep just about everything that you find these days?
I would say I probably keep about 5%.
Oh,
Maybe less. Yeah. So for the month of January, I've set myself a new challenge because December with the advent calendar isn't challenging enough. So I'm trying to do a beach cleanup every day this month.
okay.
Um, and so actually that's kind of a good metric to figure out really how much I'm keeping. But I would say it's about 5%. There is
Really?
just a lot of, it's just waste. It's plastic. I'll pick up very big pieces that are fully grown over and they have all sorts of things on them. And I'm not going to use those.
Like barnacles and things like that.
Yeah. And then just bits o' plastic
Yeah,
is, you know,
yeah.
there's so much.
Is
Yeah.
there a good recycling system in Bermuda?
Sadly not. I mean,
Mm.
we're a really small community, right? But we have a lot of people who are trying very hard. So our main waste disposal on the island is a waste to energy facility, an incinerator.
Oh, an
Um,
incinerator. Okay.
and Bermuda being this incredibly remote, small place,
Mhm.
our main power source from the electricity company, they burn gas and diesel. Um,
Oh.
so if there's things that have already been shipped to the island, let's say plastic bags. So a
Hmm.
friend of mine who used to run Keep Bermuda Beautiful, which is one of Bermuda's oldest environmental organizations, she and I would always have this discussion about, if you don't have your reusable bag, what's better, paper or plastic?
Hmm.
And her argument was that actually plastic is better because the paper bags are heavy. So the amount of diesel being burnt to bring those to the island is
Hmm.
considerable. And then the plastic bags, especially the blue ones, which we can use, so we can recycle tin, aluminum, and glass here. That's
Okay.
it.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually not recycled here, it's taken off island and recycled.
Oh, okay.
So, but if your rubbish is in a plastic bag, if you're putting your rubbish in that and then it's taken to the facility and burnt there, they make energy from that. So
Ah,
it's definitely not a closed loop and it's
yeah.
not a sustainable one and it's problematic. But we do not have landfill here anymore. We
You
have it
have no land
for
for landfill.
we have no land for landfill. In fact, off our airport, for 50 years, they have been building more land with the landfill. So, refrigerators, appliances, cars, chat.
Oh.
So they remove all the nasties and then they use it as sort of building blocks
Oh,
for
wow.
building. Yeah. So Bermuda's a very kind of strange, special little case.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, which island is it? Is it I'm forgetting the name of it, but there's a Danish island off of Sweden, and I've been there, and I can't believe I'm forgetting the name right now. But they have managed to generate all their energy on the island. But
Oh,
they,
wow.
of course, are attached to Denmark and a much bigger country with a much bigger infrastructure for doing
Right.
all those things. And um, so I do have to give a shout out to the waste facility people, the waste management, and the works and engineering staff in Bermuda. I think they are as frustrated as all the residents are with the amount of plastic and that we can't really do anything with it
Yeah.
here.
But
So
burning plastic releases so many chemicals, thousands of chemicals, and many of them are unregulated, and God knows how they've changed from being in the ocean and everything. Wow.
yeah, no, so it's bad. But I mean, this is the thing. When we look at plastic, we need to look at it that we're looking at oil.
Yeah.
And so I guess they're doing the best they can with it. So it is quite frustrating here, especially after having lived in a country like Sweden, where they are very progressive with their recycling and waste management. There, even when I had very young children, my weekly bin waste was one small carrier bag, if
Wow.
that, because everything would be sorted from our food scraps to our cardboard to our hard plastic, glass, everything.
Wow.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't say things are much better here in the United States.
Well, you do have the facility though to side cycle, upcycle, reuse.
Yeah, but really, I think this is a worldwide, Well, definitely the US number, I think it's only 5% of all plastic actually gets recycled.
Yeah.
And the only plastics that are likely to get recycled here are the number one and two plastics. All
Yeah.
the other plastics are highly, even less likely to be recycled. Um, and I live actually in the county that I live in. Well, maybe there's some older landfills that are no longer functioning, but all the trash here gets also burned in an incinerator, um, which is really, really old.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like the need to keep up with it
Yeah.
is it's such a problem everywhere. And um, but yeah, so of what if let's say on an average beach cleanup, probably go for a half hour, 45 minutes.
Mhm.
And I tend to pick up like the larger items I will sort of pool. So on my way back, I'll pick
Mhm.
them up. But as I go, will have some sort of bag with me. And I tend to not, I don't pick up the nurdles and the teeny tiny stuff. I feel like that's almost like a specialist thing.
Yeah, those are
Um,
very hard to spot, right?
well, yeah, I mean, here we have, especially this time of year, we have the sargassum seaweed.
Uh-huh.
And so it's within the seaweed. If you basically just lift that seaweed off the beach, along the tidal line. It's just littered with the little tiny
Turtles.
pixels of
Oh,
plastic,
wow.
basically. But I will pick everything up and then bring it home and sort of dump everything out and go through and sort out what I want to keep and what I want to dispose of. And yeah, I probably keep about 5%. I would say of what I am picking up. And this isn't necessarily what I keep. I would say easily 30 to 40% is from the fishing industry.
Oh, really? So like
Really.
fishing nets and things like that?
Nets, hooks, lobster pots, fish pots.
Huh.
Um, I have probably 500 of these objects. I can send you an image of them. And they're like almost like little plastic tent peg stake type things. And I didn't know what they were.
Uh-huh.
But a friend of mine who works for fisheries, he was like, oh, those are what they call spacers. So on the bigger fishing boats, they have the plastic boxes, which I find a lot of too, or bits of those.
Oh, wow.
And then they pack the fish in those, and then they pack ice on that.
Mhm.
And then so that they don't sit on top of each other, they put these little plastic things that space the boxes between each
Oh,
other. I probably have 400 or 500 of them.
oh my
Uh,
God.
and I didn't know what it was. And buoys.
Hmm.
There's just and tag. I have hundreds of these orange tags that I guess fishermen either put on those boxes or some sort of receptacle that when they get to shore and they drop the fish off,
Hmm.
they can be like, oh, this is from
Oh,
Bob's
wow.
boat,
So
Steve's
I was
boat.
gonna ask what kind of things you do keep, and you seem to keep a lot of those tags and those sticks. What
Yes.
else?
So from the fisheries, I keep any buoys. I actually have a collection of rope as well that I keep.
Oh,
Not probably 1% of what I pick up in terms of the rope I keep.
uh-huh.
But like if it's an interesting color or an interesting knot, or if I could reuse it. So yeah, I mean my garage is where we can't fit our car in there. Um, So, yeah. So, but my favorite, because I'm a weirdo, I guess, is, if I find, a toy or something very recognizable or that has some sort of like kind of immediate story to it.
Hmm.
So like even my collection of lighters, I've taken out all the lighters that say Bermuda on them. I
Oh,
have 10 of them or something.
uh-huh.
And yeah, so I need to start limiting my collection a little bit more, I think. Yeah.
So do you clean the beach plastic that you find in any way?
Yeah. So the stuff that I keep, I soak in water and Simple Green, which is a
Mm,
non-toxic,
yeah.
cleaning product. Um, I don't scrub it or anything
Uh-huh.
and get all the bit, but I want it to have that patina.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes there's just something living in whatever it be, and
Oh,
maybe I have to just let it go. Um, I actually lost my sense of smell when I was studying photography.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
London, doing a lot of color printing and not realizing that it was very poor ventilation. But
Oh,
so I have no sense of smell. And so sometimes I'll pick up my kids from school or whatever, and I've been to the beach and they're like, Mom, oh my God, it stinks. And I don't even realize there's some creature, dead creature living in the
okay.
yeah. So
I
I
was
go
going to
through it
ask if
all,
your garage smells.
probably. Yeah, so I do wash, I rinse it and clean it with that, and then I dry it out in the sun, and then I sort of put it in its different receptacles. So some stuff I do just by color,
Hmm.
uh, and then other it's the object or the material. Like I have a big box that's just sort of foam parts.
Oh, okay.
Then like on my, I mean, it's all over our house too. So on my back patio, I've made sort of a giant beaded curtain out of all the buoys,
Oh,
the net
cool.
buoys that I found. And right now in my front yard, all the big buoys that I found, I put in um oleander tree, no, frangipani tree. And
Mm.
it's like my Christmas tree because they look like Christmas ornaments. So yeah, it's everywhere.
Wow. Now, do you find that it disintegrates more as it hangs outside?
No, I think that's part of the problem, right? It's super
Really?
indestructible.
Yeah, I
Um,
find the smaller pieces, like, well, the soft plastic definitely disintegrates. Do you find a lot
yeah,
of the soft, like plastic bags and things like that? Do you find a lot of that?
I do not as much. I mean, it's definitely more hard plastics, and I only keep soft plastics that maybe they have something interesting printed on them. So I can see that this has come from Colombia or
Right.
West Africa or it's Korean writing,
Uh-huh.
and kind of wondering how this actually the other day I found a 2 liter water bottle and I'm not sure if it's Mandarin or Korean.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
it's Mandarin, but because it's like a funky font.
Hmm.
Um, not that I would necessarily recognize it right away, but anyhow, I need to find that out to figure out like how did this get here?
Yeah.
Like, there'd be one thing finding that in the Pacific, but finding it in the Atlantic, it's obviously been jettisoned off a fishing boat. So, but soft plastic wise, yeah, if it has some sort of redeeming quality like
Yeah.
that, or the balloons, the
Oh,
shiny,
yes.
I
I've been
keep those.
finding a lot of those lately, and I do my foraging in the woods, not on a beach. And I've been
Okay.
finding a lot of balloons lately that have been,
Yeah, well,
and not like every now and then I'll find a new balloon, but most of them have clearly been wilding for quite a while.
but
And they,
balloons are just like really, it's a bit like fireworks. Do we really, is it worth it? Like, do we really
no,
need all this? Like,
so awful.
uh, and yeah, and it's a real problem here because also we have Portuguese man of war jellyfish in our waters.
Hmm.
And they have like a balloon that's like their ballast, and then the tentacles come down from them. And though the turtles eat them,
Yeah,
various different animals eat them. And I tell you, a plastic kind of slightly deflated balloon and a jellyfish look exactly the same.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I've actually done little videos and photos, been like, would you know the difference?
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's just like these, I think we're just, or another one that I find that I'm just like, really? Are the plastic flossers?
Yes.
I'm like, really, people? Like,
How do they get lost? I find them in the woods. I'm like, what are people like walking around and flossing as they're walking in the woods and just
yeah.
throwing them? I don't
I mean,
understand.
you see people do it on the New York City subway, so I guess so.
True. Can you
Although
just
you
put
see
it in the
everything on the
trash can?
subway. Yeah, so it just for me, it's just like this is astonishment or straws. Like,
Yeah.
so a friend of mine who had a sandwich shop, and it's like he been running it forever, 30 years or something. And I went there one time and got a sandwich, and no bag, thanks, no, I'm good. I'm literally gonna go eat my sandwich or whatever. And the lady at the till, who I've been saying hello to for 25 years or whatever, they have a box of plastic straws
Mhm.
out. And I just said to her, I was like, would you do an experiment where you just took it off the counter? And
Uh-huh.
of course, I understand some people need a straw. Maybe they've
Yes.
suffered a stroke or they've had dental work or they're two
Yeah.
or whatever it be. Like,
Yes.
I understand as a business, you want to have that for your clients. But I think if you have it right out there, people just almost instinctively take one when they don't
Right.
need one.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if you have it under the counter, would you do me a favor and just put it under the counter for a week and maybe just have a piece of paper? And every time somebody asks you for a straw, just put a line down. And then at
Hmm.
the end of the week, it'd be really interesting to see how many you win. So he refused to do it. So it never
Oh,
happened. But to me, it was like this huge lesson that, if it's there, we kind of just, we've all been trained a little bit to start saying no to single-use plastics.
yeah.
But if the option of the disposable cutlery wasn't even there, then the norm would be that everyone would have some in their car or in their office or whatever it be.
Absolutely.
So
And as far as straws, I mean, they do have metal straws these days, or even the hard plastic reusable straws. They're
yeah,
everywhere. I mean, I
yeah,
understand the glass straws are a little bit, if they break, that's a little that's kind of messy, so I understand that. But, we have a drawer full in our house of various reusable straws from silicone to plastic to metal.
yeah, yeah. So, and I think most people do. And with the bags, the grocery shopping bags, it's actually been kind of interesting to see the evolution
Oh yeah.
here with it.
Uh-huh.
Having been in Sweden. So in Sweden for probably 30 years, you've had to pay for your plastic bags.
Hmm.
So when you get to the till, they have them there. And what they generally do is the supermarket partners with a local sport team, and it's like a sponsorship of that
Okay.
sports team because they make the profit from people buying those bags. So it's sort of like a kind of feedback thing. But sort of that's the norm there. So everybody has been using canvas bags or, for quite a while there.
Mhm.
And then here it kind of has cottoned on, and it's so there was an insurance company here that licensed this image of mine, and they put it on the one up there, and they put it on a shopping bag here and distributed that to all of the stores.
Was it
And
okay?
then
Was that a canvas bag?
it was a reusable plastic bag.
Yeah.
So they kind of, it was a bit of I mean, it was better,
Hmm.
but it wasn't great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least they tried something. So, but instead of just going to one store, they went to all the stores and
Hmm.
said, like, look, we'll produce these. If your customers, you decide what the parameters are. And I think they decided that, like, if you spent more than $50, you got a bag,
Hmm.
um, which in Bermuda is not hard when a bell pepper is $5.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, that has started to happen, and then all the stores started producing their own reusable bags, but they still all have paper and plastic. But even just that psychology, oh, and they give you a discount if you have your bags, and all these things that have been introduced here, which
Mhm.
are now like the norm. um we just need to be doing that with more and more
Yeah.
things, whether it be holiday gift wrap or I think the water bottles and the straws and reusable bags. We're all thinking a little differently these days, which is good, but there's
Yeah.
so much to do.
We're trying. It's so much harder. So here in New York, I think it's now been close to 5 years that they said they outlawed the plastic bags. But they
Okay.
still come up because there's all sorts of loopholes. Like if you order takeout, the takeout will frequently come in a plastic bag because they're allowed to send it in a plastic bag. I think the pandemic also screwed things up quite a bit
Mhm.
in that. Um,
Yeah.
but now what I have found, at least around where I live, is they started producing these bags that look like cloth, but they're really not cloth. They're plastic. They just
Oh no.
have, they're not that clear, sheer and shiny. They're like this matte cloth-like finish, but there's no weft and weave. It's not cloth, it's
Yeah.
plastic. They just
Yeah.
look like fabric. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And also every
Oh, I know the ones you
supermarket.
mean. Like Whole Foods has them.
Yes.
Because those are Yeah. So if I'm in the States, I always go to Whole Foods because it's like a tourist attraction for us because we have no franchise in Bermuda.
Oh
So
wow.
we have no McDonald's, no, Whole Foods, nothing like that. So yeah, it's like a tourist attraction for us. And I'll buy the bags and, use them as my shopping bags
Right.
here.
Right.
And then when they've gotten to a place where they're just too old, those are the ones I use to collect the plastic
The
with.
trash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but here now I have a whole selection of them. They sell these woven plastic bags. So they're woven and they're sturdy plastic bags and they sell them for like $5 or $10 in every store. But now but they're now being used almost as single-use plastic bags because there's just so many of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's out of control.
Yeah, it really is. Like there seems to be every time you think you're like going to limit the plastic bag, a new version of it comes out that is, doesn't fit into has a loophole for being used.
We're just all so spoiled by the convenience. And I
Yeah.
am totally guilty of this.
Oh yeah,
I've got
me too.
plastic in my shoes right now. Like in this room, the amount of plastic is, crazy.
Yeah.
So we all need to change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually try quite carefully in my work because I'm not a scientist.
Mhm.
I am not, you know, some sort of I'm not making huge sacrifices in my life with all of this. So I really want to be very careful with my work, ocean plastic work, not to be holier than thou about
Yeah.
it. I mean, and Bermuda's a small community. So like I know I cannot walk down the street with a plastic water bottle. Not that I want to,
Yeah.
sometimes when I've had to produce photo shoots, especially during the pandemic,
Hmm.
when, there was all that so much plastic was being used, like you said. But even just like having drinks on set, I tried to do this whole thing where I bought all these glass bottles and I had pens and people could put their name on there. And it was really challenging. So
Yeah.
I reverted back to using plastic water bottles and feeling awful about it. But, I want to try and do what I can, but I don't know what someone else's story is,
No.
and I'm not going to, so like that guy with the sandwich shop, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to buy the paper straws because they don't work and they're more expensive. So
Yeah.
who am I to come and tell him, well, you have to do that. You have to do that. It's like almost like we all have to get there on our own. And
Yeah.
we need reminding. And that's the idea with my work and a lot of your work and a lot of the people you're talking to is like, let's just kind of remind everybody that 15 years ago, the idea of bringing your own bag to the supermarket or 10 years ago, people would be like, whatever, hippie.
Right.
Whereas now it's like, yeah, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we all need to reminders. We all need encouragement. And one thing I try to say is that every little thing that you can do counts,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
because if 100 of us stop using plastic water bottles, that counts. I'm sorry, that counts.
Yeah, it does count. But also at the same time, with the plastic I'm picking up and what I'm seeing, like I said, a lot of it here in Bermuda is coming from the fishing
Yeah,
industry. That industry needs to be more responsible for that.
absolutely.
The bottle caps, the fact that they've made this change in the EU now that the bottle cap is attached
Attached.
to the
Yes, I've heard
bottle,
about that.
I think could help. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's just Coca-Cola is now stopping any sort of
Oh yeah.
change that they're
It,
making. It's sort of like these big industries and governments. These are the places where real change can happen.
yes.
That's not to say we as individuals should not do our little part, because like
Right.
you said, even if it was a Bermuda, if in Bermuda no visitor or islander ever used another plastic water bottle again,
Hmm.
that's millions,
Yeah.
and so it does make a difference.
Yeah.
But if we can hold, you
Right.
know,
The big corporations accountable. Yeah, there need to be laws in place. And maybe they could be federal laws or maybe they can be worldwide laws. I mean, they keep trying, but it doesn't seem to happen. I am hopeful that one day it will happen, that these big corporations that produce the plastic would actually be the ones responsible for it. That's when it's really going to make a difference.
yeah, that's really the only, yeah. So let's hope. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have had some support from companies here in Bermuda,
Mhm.
um, and then some overseas support from companies working in this space.
Mhm.
So I think there is a lot of really amazing, committed people to making
Oh
a change.
yeah.
It's just whether it's too late. I sort of reflect on when I was younger, and like I said, when I was a kid, I lived in California for a bit. And, the sort of, my mom was a member of Greenpeace, and
Mhm.
it was all about save the whales and the ozone layer,
Yeah.
and it being like, we're going to have a problem. And I had this realization, I don't know, a couple of years ago where I was like, we're too late. Like, we're in the problem. I'm not saying give up,
Oh yeah.
but that kind of childhood echoes in my mind, like, we have to change or we're going to have some serious issues.
Yeah.
We're,
And we have not changed enough. We are in the problem now, but we can mitigate the problem.
yes.
We can slow down climate change. And there are options. I don't know if you know, there's a scientist called Elizabeth Johnson, and
Okay.
she I think well, there's two books of hers that I know about. She might have written more. One of them is, I think it's called All We Can Save, and it's
Mhm.
essays from different people talking about how they can help find a solution to climate change and what there's going on in the communities. That was very inspiring. But now she just wrote a new book, and it's called What If We Could Do It, or something like that. I have to look it up. I can't
Yeah,
not
because
say the right word. Um,
I think it's doable. And yeah, you can get overwhelmed by the doom and gloom. Actually,
oh
my
my God, it's
friend's son,
so much. Oh, there it is. The book is called What If We Get It Right?
that's great. I
Isn't
like
that a
that
great title?
optimism.
And it's really like it's a very uplifting book, even though she lists all the horrible things that are going on here. Like there are solutions to everything. We just have to get it right.
Exactly. Exactly. But I do like her sort of optimism. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, essentially by just even opening that book,
yeah,
you're being like, I'm optimistic. We can change this. We can do,
yeah,
what if we get it right? Like,
yeah,
that's kind
yeah.
of great because you can get overwhelmed by the doom and gloom of it. A friend of mine's son a few years ago he was in a depression
Hmm.
because he was so worried about the planet.
Yeah,
Which is maybe more of us should be like that, but maybe not a child, you know?
right.
Uh,
Yeah, not a child. No,
yeah, it's kind of,
it's easy to get overwhelmed. I mean, I belong to a whole bunch of organizations, and you follow them on Instagram, and they're posting all of these horrible facts. And like, for instance, right now, as we're recording this, Los Angeles is essentially burning down in a horrible fire, which
yeah,
is the result of climate change.
yeah.
So if you just stick to the negative stuff, it can get really depressing and really fast. And you could be like, well, I'll just, throw my hands up in the air. There's nothing anybody can do. But luckily, that's not true. And a
Yeah.
book like Dr. Johnson's book, it's, has interviews in it with professionals in various fields and scientists who could say, yes, you can still do something. We're not going to stop it completely at this point, but we can slow it down, and we can make life better on this
And I
planet.
think there's so many great people out there kind of having that positive message. Do you know Sam Bentley? He's a British guy.
No.
And I think his handle is Sam Bentley, but every week he does, here's some good news.
Yeah.
And it is, the Azores has created the largest marine sanctuary in the
Right.
world. And there'll be various, and he does a year roundup, and it's just sort of very positive,
Yeah.
So I really like having that.
Yeah.
Or
There are a few
Greenpeace.
others like that too. I follow them on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's important. So
Yeah.
but also in the same way with our work, it is just an immediately positive thing. I do have some people, particularly when I'm picking up the plastic, who have come to me and been like, that's not making any difference. And that's fine. They feel like they need to say that. And I'd be like, I absolutely know that this is not even a drop in the drop in the drop in the drop of the bucket. But what I do think is that if someone sees my work,
Mhm.
the finished result, I don't know, maybe it'll just trigger something in them. Like,
That's what
okay,
I'm hoping
maybe I
for.
can, yeah, maybe I don't need to buy a new this or that. Maybe I
Yeah.
can use the one I already have. Or like, oh, wait, doesn't my mom have that? You know,
Yeah. No, it's true. It's like if they see our art, maybe they'll be inspired to pick up a piece of trash and put it in the proper receptacle, or maybe they'll just be inspired to not get that next water bottle. Whatever it is, it's a little
yeah,
thing. It counts. Or
we have
maybe
to
they'll
hope.
be inspired to, support a state senator that supports the reduce what is it called? The Plastic Packaging Reduction Act or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that, and that's the thing. Like saying no to plastic, single-use plastics is one way we can all make a change right away. But like you said, like making sure that our lawmakers and decision makers and those higher ups within the kind of multinational
Yeah.
corporations, that's when it's exciting when something like that happens, because it is a big shift. It can be a big shift.
Yeah, it
So
can be. And I choose to believe that it's still possible.
yeah, I think so. I'm not that cynical yet.
Yeah.
I
But
actually have a bit of a dilemma right now with something that I'm working on. So I'm working on a series of, I'm trying to work on a series of NFTs.
oh,
Uh, yeah, and there will be utility within the NFTs that would be giving back a commitment to either picking up a certain weight of plastic,
oh,
or the funds would go to organizations doing that, or I have to figure that out.
oh,
But my
interesting.
dilemma is that the energy used, to the processing energy
Hmm.
is pretty toxic. And so
Yeah,
I'm kind of like, do I want to do this or do I not? So and I feel that way with, when I'm doing prints and if I have to ship a print. And so it's
right,
funny because there's always this sort of, because I'm in this space, I really feel
right,
like I have to be considered about what I'm doing. And sometimes that can be a bit incongruous with either progress or profit.
right.
So
Yeah. No, it's hard to keep track of all of those things, but yeah, you got to do your best. I mean, I
yeah.
suppose you make all your own prints. You don't like if I order a print from you, could it be printed in the United States?
Yeah, so I have a printer in the US, I have a
Uh-huh.
printer in the UK, I have a printer
Okay.
here. So that one's actually not too bad. But
Okay. Well, that's good.
um but yeah, I mean, then this is the thing. I think everybody has this in their everyday lives
Yeah.
that, how can I deal with this?
Yeah.
So
No, it's true. It's like, do I really need to have this thing tomorrow? Do I really need to order it from Amazon, or could I wait a few days and get it locally, or maybe even go to the store by myself?
yeah, yeah, that novel idea. Yeah.
Right? Like, who does that anymore?
But it is, I have to say, working in this space or creating work in this space, it's a very welcoming um group, basically. Like you
Oh,
said,
that's
on
great.
Instagram, I just feel like every day I'm seeing someone else doing something amazing, whether it's making leather from mangoes or bricks from plastic trash or whatever it be, just like all the novel ways people
Abs-
are facing this challenge. And then
Absolutely.
also creatively, the beautiful, thought-provoking work that's being created is pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it really is. I think you're right. Like every day I discover someone new doing something amazing with what others would consider trash. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is hugely inspiring.
Yes, it absolutely is, because it is the sort of, we are in the plastic era.
Yeah.
It was the Iron Age, the Cretaceous, whatever
Yeah.
ages. I'm
Now
not.
it's the Anthropocene. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's yeah. And
Yeah.
and also just the people are with what I do, yes, people like my work. Oh, one interesting question that I have a lot that
Yeah.
I'm kind of baffled by is people often ask me, particularly with the pieces that are like the rainbow gradients
Mhm.
or a gradient of color, they ask me if I've painted the plastic.
I get
And
that
I'm like,
question
no, no,
as well.
no. Yeah. And I was just like, no, this is what
Yeah.
I found.
Totally
Like,
fair. Yep.
it's a really, I think it's like they're kind of shocked by how vibrant it is, maybe as a material. So they
Yeah.
think maybe I've done that to make it be what I want it to be. When I'm like, no, it's sort of,
Yeah.
I think I had a shift of like 3 or 4 years ago where I was almost like trying to collect and covet and then, put the things together. Whereas now I'm sort of letting the material lead me. So
Mhm.
even stuff that's not as recognizable, like old hairbrushes with just the holes, like the
Yeah.
textures and that to me, I'm really fascinated by
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw a whole bunch of hairbrushes, collage, hairbrush collage.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think any object and the way you juxtapose them, it's art. It's beautiful art. Yeah.
You. Thanks.
Yeah. No, it's really wonderful. So, yeah, I get that question about the color all the time as well. And occasionally I will use acrylic paint, which is essentially plastic, to add some texture to things, but
Yeah.
it really happens rarely. Actually, what I wind up using a lot is I have painter friends who will use plastic to add texture to their painting, and they save
Okay.
that plastic with paint stains for me, and then I'll use that in my art.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
So it's like, no, that's not my paint, but yes, it is paint. But that's a separate body of work. But the body, like what you see behind me, those bright colors, the flowers, and all the nature inspired work that I do, that's the plastic color that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's,
people
but
are
to me,
always
it's
like,
like,
is that paint? Nope.
I'm very shocked by how often I'm asked that. And like, yeah, it's sort of a curious one.
Yeah.
But then also people are very fascinated with the process. Like, yes, the end pieces are interesting to see, but the collection itself, the process, and yeah, whether I wash it,
Yeah.
and I'm
Well, that's why
realizing
I'm here
more.
asking you all these questions.
I know it's great. But and so I'm sort of realizing more and more, particularly with Instagram, and my kids are like, "Mom, you should be on TikTok. You should have a TikTok showing you collecting the stuff." I mean, I really don't put myself in my work. Like a lot of people don't know what I look like, but when my children were younger, I would photograph them quite often. So they would see me in town or whatever on the island with my kids, and they're like, "Are you Meredith? Are you Meredith Photo?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." So I don't really put myself in it. And so, yeah, I guess I'm continuing with that. But sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
sort of, no,
no.
it's a really great community and it's really exciting. Like, so I'm off. Yeah, people want to see the process and they're like, Mommy, you
Yeah.
should show everybody.
Well, you don't have to
Um,
go to the TikTok. You can just do reels for Instagram of you picking up trash. You can, and your
yeah, I
kids
think
are probably old
I'll
enough
stick to
now to
that.
take some videos of you.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't learn another. No, I'm
Yeah,
not that
no,
I'm too old for it, but I just don't want to fill any more of my brain space with another
exactly. Yeah.
social
I
media.
did make a TikTok account at one point, and I think I was on it for like 2 days, and I was like, you know what? I just can't process this. This is too much. So,
Yeah, and now they may be banning it, so that's.
right. So, you know what? It's okay. I think between Instagram and Facebook,
But
this,
people are very excited by the collection. They love coming over and seeing it. So when I did that show at the National Gallery, I'll send you all the information about that and
oh,
stuff.
yeah, no, I'd love
I
to. Yes.
actually made a small film about it and my process.
Oh,
And
cool.
and so he sort of, and the filmmaker, he was definitely most interested in the collection.
Uh-huh.
And me opening these drawers and there being all these kind of dismembered anthropomorphic toys and combs and printer cartridges and
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't wait to see this film.
yeah, I'll forward that to you. And yeah, and if you needed any images, I could even do like a quick video of my space or
Oh,
that
thank
sort of.
you. Yeah, that would be great if I could put that on a link to it in YouTube, something like that.
Yeah.
But when you had that exhibit, what is
Mhm.
it, at the Bermuda Art Center? What did you call it?
The Bermuda National Gallery.
National Gallery. So did you, aside from your prints, did you actually have any physical work with plastic or your materials laid out somewhere?
So for that show, I didn't.
Mhm.
It's sort of a small space in the gallery, and it was quite exciting because it was the first selling show that the
Oh,
gallery had ever done.
oh wow.
Because as the National Gallery, it's sort of, the receptacle of all our contemporary art.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they had this smaller gallery and they decided to have it as a selling show.
Mhm.
It may have actually been the second selling show, but we were quite successful. So I basically did these large limited edition prints.
Mhm.
Um, and they were, I want to say 30 by 40, something around that. They
Yeah, pretty
were
big.
large scale, about the size of this poster behind me. And then I did 16 editions of 16 by 20 posters.
Mhm.
And the profits from that were shared equally between myself, the National Gallery, and Keep Bermuda Beautiful.
Oh,
So
that's
at the end of the day, I think the initial donation, well, to this point, I've donated about $20,000 to Keep
oh
Bermuda
wow.
Beautiful from that. But yeah, no, but I have had other shows where I have shown the physical work, shown
Mhm.
and sold the physical work.
Mhm.
And I have had commissions from solar power company. There's a new restaurant that's opening, and they've commissioned me to do a piece of their logo. I did a very large scale piece. It was 9 foot by 4 foot wooden panel that I did for the Bermuda Tourism Authority.
Oh wow.
Um, and that was sort of a triangle or three triangles, the Bermuda Triangle thing.
Yeah.
We got to play on that. Uh, of a rainbow gradient
Mm.
going in
So
opposite direction.
I have to ask a technical question. When you make the physical work,
Mm.
and how do you attach the plastic to the board?
So this is something I've struggled with a little bit because initially the first piece where I was really affixing it to it was this large scale piece for the BTA or the Tourism Authority.
Mhm.
And I started with a glue gun.
Mhm.
And I probably got 20% in, and then I realized it was just not going to hold.
Yep.
So I realized I needed to use super glue, and I was using a space in my house because it was just massive.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of a closed space. I didn't really, so I switched over to very strong super glue, Gorilla Glue, which
Mhm.
is pretty toxic.
Yeah.
And like I said, I had no sense of smell. So like an hour into that, my husband came down. He's like, babe, open a window. Yeah. So I now use a very well ventilated space and
Mhm.
super glues.
And super glue. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know some artists use rivets and g screw guns and screws and things like that. I was interested to see because I didn't see any attachments in your photos, so that explains it.
Yeah, so I use the glue, which, can be problematic. So I have a few pieces here that were like early days
Mhm.
pieces, and some of the plastics have come off, but it's a small enough place. I've gone over to the collector's house and
Fixed
fixed
it.
it for them. I mean, it's not ideal. I don't think I would prefer to have another method, but I think because the scale of which I'm using,
Mhm.
if I and the material being so brittle, I
Yeah.
think if I was to drill through it or hammer through it somehow, it would shatter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think you're right. I think with plastic that has been exposed to the elements, um, it would definitely tr shatter from
yeah,
trying to drill a hole through it, probably even.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I can grab this one and sort of show you. It's funny because when you're close up to it, it doesn't look like anything, right?
Right, right, because it just looks like a bunch of bottle caps and pieces of plastic.
Yeah.
But
And
from
then
far away, it's a huge, gorgeous. I mean, I instantly recognize it as Marimekko.
yeah, that's so great. But yeah, so you have to, yeah, trial and error, I think, with the affixing to it.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
have I have experimented as well recently with trying to encase it in a very thin layer of resin.
Hmm.
Again, more plastic though.
Exactly. Yes, I've been working with resin myself, and sort of kicking myself for working with resin because here I am creating more plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sort of justified it that I was like, well, it was already existing in the box at the art store that was closing down. So, but still, yeah, it feels like we can't escape it.
No,
And
we
then
can't.
also another thing about this whole community is I've forgotten her name, but the British woman who wrote Lego Lost at Sea.
Oh, I
Did you
don't
know
know
her?
that book.
Okay, so there was in the, I want to say the early 90s,
Mhm.
maybe late 80s, there was a container that fell off a ship in the either in the North Sea or the English Channel,
Uh-huh.
basically. And it was a container full of Lego from
Oh my
Denmark.
gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, late 80s, early 90s, I want to say like 93 or
Uh-huh.
something. And to this day, Lego is still washing up, particularly on the Cornish coast of the UK, the
Oh
south
my
coast.
gosh.
And so this lady's written a book called Legos Lost at Sea. Ironically, um, one of the figurines that was on in the container was the scuba diver. So there's like little tanks and little fins, but it
Oh
was
my
also
God.
the witch, a knight, a dragon. And so it's this like thing that, people are going out on the Cornish coast, and if they find a dragon, they get in touch with her. And so she
Wow.
has documented that very well.
Oh my
And
God.
then it was probably like a couple years into me doing this, I noticed that I was finding a lot of the same HP printer cartridges. So I
Oh.
did a little research, and again, there was a container that went overboard, and
Oh my
HP
God.
actually created you can log it. You can
Oh
log
wow.
where you're finding them, when you find them. And I believe there's a professor at the University of Plymouth in the UK who's done a lot of work, because then they can track the gyres of
Right.
how
How it
things are
travels.
moving.
Yeah.
And they're so toxic, they're so nasty.
Yeah.
But so that's quite interesting, is that community, whether it be locally, like my friend I was telling you about earlier, who works for fisheries. So he's out on a boat all the time. And
Hmm.
he's for 20 years, he's been picking things up. I mean, he actually even found part of a SpaceX rocket,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
yeah. Um, but he's been finding things. So he's the one who knows what stuff is.
Hmm.
But the stuff he finds is just crazy. And so he told me about a container of Nike trainer sneakers
Oh,
went overboard. And so like that's something I could do, is
yeah.
like the probably couple thousand shoes that are in my basement because they
Oh
would have
my
been there.
gosh.
If I was to go through those and be
Hmm.
like, okay, these are all clearly, they were new Nikes.
Uh-huh.
Let me give. So I think that there's this kind of, it's a space where there's this really interesting intersection
Yeah.
of science, data collection, and creativity.
Yeah, no, really is. That's fascinating. I'm gonna have to look into that Lego thing. That
Yeah.
that's fascinating, but it's true. I mean, the ocean storms, accidents happen. So yeah, and accidents unfortunately pollute the planet, but wow, that's really interesting. Wow. So what do you have ahead for yourself for 2025?
Yes, so for 2020, in this space, I am doing a cleanup every day in January. So this afternoon, I've got to go off and do that. It's a bit
Okay.
blustery here today, but it's nowhere near as cold as it is in New York. So, yeah. So this month, I'm going to continue to do that.
Hmm.
I am going to really try and get my not I'm not going to try. I'm going to get my NFT project off the ground.
Uh-huh.
So I can send you more information about that as I do that, because I'd like to partner with, making this worth someone's while beyond mine,
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, that
Um,
sounds interesting to me. I know nothing about NFTs. Um, yeah, I know nothing about them, so I have no idea how that works. So I would be curious to find out how you make it work.
yes. So I'm looking forward to doing that and kind of just dabbling in that space and seeing
Mhm.
what it's like. I would very much like to do another show exclusively around this. And I have a few projects that are slightly different than what I've been doing previously. So I guess I would describe it more as sculptural work,
Ooh, okay.
kind of working more in the 3D
Mm-hmm.
with these materials, and really letting them speak to me, because I think I'm going to continue with creating the collections or the patterns or
Mm-hmm.
mosaics, whatever they should be called. But I am really interested in not only like what I could do in terms of creating 3D pieces, but also maybe using things like light and projection. So I'm very interested in the idea of creating silhouettes
Oh, okay.
from, say, piles of very deliberately placed piles of plastic.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, so just to be honest, playing a little bit more with it.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like January is going to be collection, and February and March will be execute
Oh,
and
wow.
create a whole lot of new work. I'm trying to think what else I have going. So I just had a bunch of my ocean plastic work on show at the Indian Photo Festival, but that in Hyderabad in
Mm.
India. And it was up for 2 months. So that I think that came down yesterday or day
Oh,
before. So that was really amazing because the potential for my work to be seen by lots of people. And
yeah,
I had a really good response to it. So that was great.
that's wonderful.
Um, and then personally, a bit kind of a change. So we are relocating to Sweden in
Oh, wow.
July. Yeah. So, but a lot of my work is here.
Hmm.
So I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with my collection.
Yes. Are you keeping your home or is this a permanent move?
No, so we rent our home.
Oh,
Um, but I I think there's going to be stuff that I'm not ready to let go of, but I don't think it will make sense to take with me. So I'm thinking I may just put it in storage
yeah.
here and then continue to do works here.
Hmm.
Uh, And then the other thing that I've been trying to do is kind of leads back to one of your earlier questions. Last year, I did a entrepreneur workshop incubator project here, this 9 month long thing.
Okay.
And I actually pitched to them the idea I have, and I just called it Plastic Mermade
Hmm.
because it's sort of under that umbrella. And Bermuda's a small place, so I'm known as the plastic lady.
Right.
Uh, and like I was saying, the frustration that there is here that you can't really do anything with your plastic.
Hmm.
And we also, it's a Bermuda for such a small place, it's very cosmopolitan. You have people coming from all over the world to work here. And maybe they're coming from Norway or Japan, Korea, Australia, Canada, whatever. And they are like, oh, in my home, this is how we deal with it. And
Hmm.
then they get here, and yes, it's this beautiful place, but they're just like, oh my God. And so
Yeah.
I feel you're much more aware of your waste here.
Hmm.
So I think there's a demand for something to be done with it. So anyhow, this entrepreneur incubator, I pitched the idea of, and he didn't want to call it recycling, but creating a side cycling project with appropriate plastics.
Huh.
And um, in the process of doing that, I discovered it's a big question of scale.
Mm.
So the idea was that I'm not an engineer, but there's all these amazing open sourced machines that
Mhm.
you can build now to chip up plastic and reformulate it
Right.
into new products.
Hmm.
Um, and so I came up with the idea of just doing maybe planter pots
Oh, yeah.
and just do one item, do it small.
Hmm.
But then as I dug deeper into that, because I'm thinking, I'm collecting enough plastic, and then friends of mine and community groups are also doing cleanups all the time.
Mhm.
And I mean, I have people who they'll call me up and say, like, hey, do you want some toothbrushes? But they are also picking up a lot of this plastic that
Mhm.
is just then going to the incinerator. And so I thought, well, I could use their plastic too. But then I realized there are all these people who want to do something with their Tide laundry detergent bottle when it's
Yeah.
done. And so then I thought, well, the scale's the problem. I think I should go bigger. And
Mhm.
this should be something that we could integrate in. The government could take over. They have the engineers, they have the experts, they have the space to have a facility. And
Mhm.
instead of making plant pots, we can make bins, we can make park benches, we can make chairs
Oh my
for the
God, yeah.
schools, prisons. So I am kind of quietly in the background, talking with the government ministers
Mhm.
and seeing if we could if we're going to do it, let's go big,
Oh wow,
and
that's
see
so
if we,
exciting.
yeah, so that could be, so I have no idea when that would be complete, if it would be complete, because I have to get a buy-in from a lot of partners,
Mhm.
but I think there's definitely demand. I don't think people are okay with the situation here with
Right.
that. So if through my little bitty art, there could be some sort of lasting program like that, I would feel really, really proud of
That
that.
would be incredible. Yeah. And I guess you just have to fly back from Sweden to facilitate all this.
Yeah. And I'm sort of planning on doing that. My mom and dad are here, my
Mhm.
sister's here, and I do have work here. So I
Mhm.
think I'll probably be coming back to Bermuda pretty regularly.
Mhm.
Um, and when I'm here, definitely be doing a lot of work in this space.
Yeah. Oh, very exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can't wait for it to all to come to fruition.
Thank you. And it's been so nice to meet you. And I really appreciate what you're doing with this podcast, because
Oh,
I
thank
watched a few of the other ones, and there's just some really inspirational people there. And, the work is one thing, like the work on its own, but then I feel like this messaging behind it is
Absolutely.
so important.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's wonderful to speak to kindred souls and then find the kindred souls listening to this and enjoying it as well. So that's really wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you. That was such a fascinating conversation. I am in awe of everything that Meredith has been doing, and I'm so glad that she has hope for this planet, our humanity, just like I do. I think we can all do better.
This podcast was created, produced, and edited by me, Natalia Korover. Theme music by R.C. Gaida. Find out more about me at artbynatalia.com. Find out about my community at repurposercollective.com. Thank you for listening.